Well, all right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hot Seat Automotive Podcast. It's your buddy CJ here. And tonight, we're talking about all things automotive industry, the automotive hobby, all the stuff that real car guys are most interested in talking about. You know, this is the place to be for that real gearhead talk. Welcome back to all my subscribers. You know, your buddy CJ loves each and every one of you. Please give me a like and subscribe. Leave me those comments. If you're not a subscriber, love to hear from you. Around here, we talk about cars and trucks and muscle cars and exotic cars and supercars, you name it. We're just a bunch of gearheads, guys. And if you like your buddy CJ, listen, you love talking about cars. Hey, when we're not driving them and we're not working on them, we're looking at them and we're talking about them. Come on. If you feel the way I do, you in the right place. Come on, guys, let's get into it. Got a bit of a special episode tonight, and I'm super excited to be with you and talking to you about one of my favorites. Let's talk about the Dodge Viper, an American hero from Detroit, Michigan. V10, rear-wheel drive, are you kidding me? Production run, kind of interesting. You know, guys, 1991 to 2010, then 2013 to 2017. So the Dodge Viper is very much of a comeback kid. And as Americans, as car guys, don't we love a comeback kid story? The return of the hero. 1991 to 2010 Dodge Viper, then it's gone. But then it came back 2013 and 2017. Guys, I want to talk to you a bit about the history, but I don't want to over-rotate on the history of the Dodge Viper. You know, there's books written. It's well documented. What I will tell you, though, tonight, before we talk a bit about what this car means to me, and then I want to hear from you in the comments what it means to you, and do you agree with me? How do you feel about the Dodge Viper? Guys, get those comments coming in so we get the community going. We have a lot of fun around here, folks. Dodge Viper, the American performance car that probably never should have been built, especially at the time it was built. We're talking about a track car for the road, okay, with some impressive performance, including that beautiful V10 out front, rear-wheel drive, side exhaust, manual transmission. Okay? This is brought to you by the same company that at the time was bringing you the Dodge Caravan and the Dodge Shadow and the Dodge Spirit. Like, really? The fact that this car got built is incredible. What do you guys think? You know, as an automotive enthusiast back then, your buddy CJ is a child of the 80s. And I was a car guy back then, and I'm a car guy now, folks. And I'll tell you what, I about lost my mind. And my buddies, my fellow gearheads back then, some of us barely old enough to drive, we lost our minds when this car came out. First gen Viper. Listen, we're going to look at it, guys. Come on. I cannot tell you how much this car meant to me and to so many automotive enthusiasts at the time. Take a look at this thing. First gen Dodge Viper, 1991, the car that probably never should have been built at that time, and certainly not by Dodge, who was also bringing us the Caravan and the Dodge Shadow. Instead, Dodge gave us this incredible V10 rear-wheel drive, manual transmission, side exhaust, track monster that you could drive on the street. Well, sort of. Guys, this car had an original MSRP of about $52,000. You know, so it was an expensive car for the time and out of reach for many folks, but so disruptive, so different. And I want to come back to it, but this is the one, guys, this first generation Dodge Viper, this is the one that has my heart. This car is still on my list. I have to own a first-gen Dodge Viper. You know, Second gen Dodge Vipers are cool. Third gen, fourth gen, the latest generation, the ACRs, incredible cars. And in many ways, absolutely better cars, performance wise, track capabilities, usability of the car, absolutely better than this first gen. But this first gen Viper, folks, got under my skin in 1991 and has never left. Let's keep going, guys. So the storied history of the Viper I do want to touch on, because we're talking about legends of the automotive industry. Lee Iacocca, Carroll Shelby, Bob Lutz, Tom Gale. Okay? Are you kidding me? Carroll Shelby himself played a role in the development and launch of the Dodge Viper. Lee Iacocca, one of the most iconic business people and automotive leaders of our time, played a role in the Dodge Viper. And the car almost didn't get built. The car was developed under a shoestring budget. Did you know? Your buddy CJ is going to give you some trivia. At the time Chrysler Corporation developed the Dodge Viper, Chrysler owned Lamborghini. Okay? A lot of you may not know that. My real gearheads out there knew that. Guys, there wasn't a lot of V10 action going on in the 80s and 90s for performance cars. Are you kidding me? We were still probably, as an enthusiast group and as a hobby, I will largely say that in North America, during that time, we were still probably in the muscle car hangover era. You were probably, if you were a dude or dudette growing up in the 80s, early 90s as an automotive enthusiast, you were probably heavily into the classics, or at least your dad was, right? You probably had an eye towards some of the classic muscle cars of the 60s, 70s. Maybe you were into some of these emerging Japanese performance cars, Supra, okay? Starion, so many cool cars, Miata. Or maybe you were into some of the Euro stuff, like the BMWs, the Audis that were coming into play. But when I think about all those cars in the 80s and into the early 90s, not a lot of V10s. I'm not going to say there wasn't any V10, but the top of the performance food chain during that era, for the most part, was your V8 performance car. Okay? Yes, there were super high-end Lamborghinis and special Ferraris and other things that were completely out of reach for your average automotive enthusiast. Most, let's say that the middle class, the backbone of the automotive hobby, we're talking about Corvettes, Camaros, okay? Dodge Daytonas, all right? BMW 3 Series, Supras, as I mentioned, stuff like that, In the US, you had like the C4 Corvette. C4 Corvette was running about 245, 300 horsepower in that era, okay? At best, you had the ZR1, which was 2 times the price of a base Corvette at that time in that era, at about 375 horsepower. First gen Viper came out with that V10, co-developed by Lamborghini at 400 horsepower. You see what's going on here? It's like an arms race. It was like an arms race, guys. And there were tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands. There have been, by the way, 2 million Corvettes, nearly. Rounding up, you've got about 2 million Corvettes manufactured till today, since the beginning of Corvette time, going back decades. You know how many Dodge Vipers have been made? Somewhere around 32,000. That's it. Over 26 years of the Dodge Viper, they made about 32,000. So why am I throwing all this out at you? Dodge Viper, first generation, was not the fastest performance car of all time. Never really has been. Okay? but it was unique. It was disruptive. It captured our imagination at a level that no Corvette could. I remember when the Corvette ZR1s came out in 1990. I had the magazines, the Car and Driver, the Road and Track. I had it all. My buddies and I at the bus stop, at the lunch table, talking about it. I couldn't afford a Corvette back then. I was just a kid. But we were all impressed and took note of the ZR1. I was more of a Camaro guy. Some guys were into Mustang. Some guys were into other stuff, right? But the Dodge Viper was a special moment in automotive history. For the young automotive enthusiast coming up in that era, this car was different. This car left an impression. Can I share with you guys tonight my first face-to-face meeting with the Dodge Viper? Your buddy CJ is going to get emotional. Don't get me emotional. Come on. You know I love to have fun with you guys on the channel. Leave me those comments, by the way. Let me know what you think about all this Dodge Viper. Which one's best? You tell me. You leave me a comment. Tell me which Dodge Viper is best. Because I'm going to be real with you. First generation Dodge Viper is in my heart. That car's got me since 1991. But wait, let me tell you the story of how your buddy CJ first met the Dodge Viper. 1994, let's go back in time. I was working as a waiter at a country club in Connecticut. How do you like that? Okay. I was finishing up college, working as a waiter, nights, weekends, doing what I had to do. One of the members at the country club had a Dodge Viper, first generation. This is 1994. Red, with those turbine wheels, those first generation Viper wheels that were so indicative of the 1990s. Am I the only one who is obsessed with first generation Viper wheels? That's the one to get. It's iconic. Is it the fastest Viper? No. I digress. Let's get back to it. I pulled into the parking lot and I see this Dodge Viper. I almost fell over driving. Got out, went and checked it out. The car was so wide, first of all. I had never seen such a low and wide performance car in my life. This car might as well have been super exotic Ferrari, Lamborghini, whatever at the time. To me, to your buddy CJ. Because none of this was attainable to me at the time. You got to understand context is everything, folks. And the context for me as a young automotive enthusiast was that, my God, it's a real Viper. The tires were so wide. The guy had the top down. No top, right? It's a Viper. I don't think this one had windows. The interior, it looked like a cockpit to me. It just looked so pure. It looked like something out of a video game to me. These were my feelings that I still remember today, all these years later. This is 1994. Okay? You do the math. So cool, you know? And I got to tell you guys, that car in that parking lot in 1994 to this car guy left an impression that has been with me since then. And I'll tell you, the Viper has evolved. Has it not? Let's take a look. Guys, let's take a look with me. This is a third generation Viper. You know, probably somewhere around a 2005, the 2004, 2005, 2006. I think this is more of a livable Viper. This is more of a civilized Viper than that first gen. This is technically, I guess, considered a third generation Viper. If I was going to buy one, you know where my heartstrings are, guys. You know the attachment I have is to the first gen Viper. But it's a little rough, you know, in terms of being able to actually use it. You know your buddy CJ. You know I like to drive my cars. Road trips, take them out, you know, weekend runs, whatever the heck it might be. That first-gen Viper is a little rough, and the practicality is very low. You know, doesn't really have proper windows, doesn't really have a proper top. Okay? Third gen Viper has those things. It's got a bit more, shall we say, amenities, features, creature comforts. You can actually probably drive it in a little bit of rain if you take it easy without, getting wet. Still got the V10. It's not as edgy and raw as that first gen Viper, but it's also probably something you could actually use and drive a bit more than the first gen. Guys, there's also a sweet spot around price for these third gen Vipers. If you're not looking for something to be, the ultimate car for your collection or the ultimate Viper, I see this as the sweet spot. If you just want a Viper to drive and enjoy and not feel bad for every mile you're going to put on it, I claim the third gen Viper is probably the one to get. What do you think? Having said that, the Vipers continued to evolve, up to and including, let's take a look at where it all ended. Here it is, the end of the line, the 2017 Vipers, the ACRs, all the special editions. I guess this is supposed to be the ultimate Viper that we should all want. I guess this is the one that I really should want, right? If I want a Viper. But for me, it's not. I say that I don't want the ultimate perfect Viper. That's never what this car was about to me. When I first fell in love with the Dodge Viper, 1991, and ultimately 1994, when I first saw one in person, and I'll never forget it, I never saw it as like the ultimate perfect performance car. I saw it as disruptive, the thing that should not exist, right? Really captured my imagination. Now, I'm sure these 2017 Vipers are incredible. They're probably mind-blowing to drive. And if you actually know how to drive on a track and you know how to drift it and do all those things, it's probably one of the ultimate thrill rides for a track car guy, right? But see, that's not why I want a Viper. I am not a track car guy. I do limited track events, some fun stuff, but I'm not a hardcore race car driver wannabe, okay? And to me, whereas I respect the performance of the final generation Vipers, it still lacks that significance, if you will, and that personal connection that the first gen Viper has for me. I never really viewed the Viper as a supercar. Hear me out. It is a special car and a very unique car. It's an American hero from Detroit, Michigan, as I said. I see it as a special track car, performance car for the streets, okay? Brought to you by Dodge. But it doesn't have that exotic element to it. Not putting it down. I want a Viper. Trust me, I want a Viper. I just got done telling you that. But I don't see it as a supercar. Supercar to me has an element of being exotic, really leading edge, cutting edge. Don't forget, Dodge Vipers historically have used some parts bin and shared components, okay, with other Dodge vehicles. Those are just the facts. It's kind of like Chevy Corvette, right? You can have a special Chevy Corvette. You can have a Z06. You can have an E-Ray. You can have a ZR1. C7 ZR1. I don't care if it's a C8 ZR1. Guess what? Newsflash. To me, it's not a supercar. It's still a Chevrolet. I like Corvettes. I have one. I have a special Corvette, if you will. Special, I know. It's still a mass-produced product. Mine happens to be a Z06. They're coming out with the ZR1. E-Rays, whatever the heck they are not supercars. I don't care how fast they are. There's like a misconception. In my opinion, this is just my opinion. You tell me what you think. There's a misconception in the automotive community that max performance equals ultimate exotic supercar. And to me, it really doesn't. It's kind of like when the Hellcat came out, or the what do they call it? The final generation of the Hellcat SRT 1320, whatever the heck they call it. You know what I'm talking about. Is that a supercar? No, it's a super muscle car. Tesla Plaid is ridiculously quick. Acceleration, quarter mile, Tesla Plaid. Yeah, I'm going to smoke just about anything. They'll make it a supercar. So the fact that the Dodge Viper is a track weapon from Detroit, is the American hero. Listen, I think it puts it in a unique spot in the annals of our hobby and in automotive history. The lineage with Carroll Shelby and the Cobras, that V10, are you kidding me? Absolutely incredible. So important. And your buddy CJ really wants a first-gen Dodge Viper. So listen, guys, I wanted to come on here and talk to you a little bit. Maybe it's a bit of my own personal love letter to the Dodge Viper. I will have one in the garage. If you own a Viper, leave me your comments. Tell me what it's like to own a Viper. I'm eager to hear from you. If you agree with me, that's cool. If you disagree, that's what it's all about. That's what the hobby's all about. Come on, I want to hear from you too. You know your buddy CJ loves you. Really appreciate, and I'm so grateful for each and every one of you who have joined me here on YouTube and Instagram, Hot Seat Gearheads. Guys, that's about enough out of me. Leave me those comments. Give me a like and subscribe. Let's celebrate the Dodge Viper. I got to get one. Come on, guys. Until then, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.